June 10th, 323 BC, Babylon. A 32-year-old man lies dying in a palace bedroom. His fever has raged for 12 days. His body, scarred from dozens of battles, is finally giving up. One by one, his soldiers file past to say goodbye. He can barely move his head to acknowledge them. This man conquered the known world. He never lost a battle. He built an empire stretching from Greece to India. And now, as he takes his final breaths, do you know what he's planning? Another war. Alexander the Great was planning to invade Arabia. That's the story nobody tells you about Alexander. Not that he was great, everyone knows that. The real story is simpler and darker. Alexander literally could not stop conquering. It was an addiction, a compulsion, and it's what made him legendary and what killed him. Today, we're not doing the usual birth to death timeline. Instead, we're asking one question: why? Why couldn't Alexander stop? What was driving this man to keep pushing further, always further, even when he'd already won? Let's find out. Alexander spent his entire childhood preparing to be extraordinary. Not good, not great, but extraordinary. His tutor was Aristotle, literally one of the smartest humans who ever lived. But Aristotle didn't just teach him philosophy, he gave him Homer's Iliad. And that book messed Alexander up in the best and worst way possible. See, the Iliad is about Achilles, a warrior who chooses a short, glorious life over a long, forgotten one. Achilles says, "Let me live forever in memory, even if I die young." And young Alexander read that and thought, yes, that. I want that. He didn't just read the Iliad, he slept with it under his pillow next to a dagger. He believed he was descended from Achilles. Some sources say he visited Achilles' tomb in Troy and ran around it naked to honor his ancestor. This wasn't just admiration, this was obsession. Alexander genuinely believed his purpose in life was to achieve immortal glory. And here's the problem with that: glory is never enough. There's always one more battle, one more kingdom, one more impossible challenge. Let's talk about his father. Philip II of Macedonia was a brilliant military reformer and a ruthless politician. He transformed Macedonia from a backwater kingdom into a military superpower. And he did it all before Alexander was 20. Now imagine being Alexander. Your dad is this legendary warrior king. Everyone compares you to him. And the worst part? Deep down, you're not sure you're actually better than him. There's this moment that reveals everything. Alexander is maybe 10 or 11 years old. His dad's army wins another victory against impossible odds. Someone congratulates young Alexander, saying, "Your father is leaving nothing for you to conquer." And Alexander, this little kid, starts crying. He says, "My father will get everything done before I'm old enough to do anything great." Think about that. Most kids worry about homework or making friends. Alexander is crying because he's afraid there won't be enough kingdoms left for him to conquer. That's not ambition, that's anxiety. Alexander spent his whole childhood terrified he'd never live up to his father's legacy. Then Philip gets assassinated, and suddenly, at 20 years old, Alexander has the throne, the army, and something to prove. When Philip died, the Greek world basically said, "Finally, we can rebel. It's just some 20-year-old kid now." Big mistake. Alexander's response to the rebellions tells you everything about his psychology. Most new kings would negotiate, make alliances, buy time. Alexander? He crushed the northern tribes in 14 days. Then he marched south to Thebes. Thebes was one of the great Greek cities. It had a proud military tradition. They refused to surrender. So, Alexander deleted it. Not defeated, deleted. He killed 6,000 people and sold 30,000 into slavery. Then he literally tore down the city buildings, leaving only the temples and the house of one poet he admired. The message was clear: I am not my father, I am worse. But here's the interesting part. Alexander didn't enjoy this destruction. Ancient sources say he regretted the destruction of Thebes later in life. So why did he do it? Because he needed everyone to be afraid of him. He needed to prove he wasn't weak. He needed to not be underestimated. And it worked. Athens and every other Greek city immediately surrendered. Within 1 year of taking power, Alexander controlled all of Greece. But now what? He'd proven himself. He could have ruled Greece, built things, governed wisely. Instead, he looked east at the Persian Empire and thought, I want that. Here's where the addiction starts to show. Alexander invaded Persia in 334 BC with 40,000 men. The first major battle is at the Granicus River. Now, any sane commander would scout the terrain, wait for better conditions, minimize risk. Alexander's generals literally beg him to wait until dawn. Alexander says no and orders an immediate assault across a river with steep, muddy banks against an enemy holding the high ground. It's tactically insane. But here's the thing. Alexander doesn't just lead the attack. He's at the front of the attack. In the first wave, a Persian noble nearly kills him. His helmet gets smashed. He's saved at the last second by a friend cutting off his attacker's arm. Why would the commander-in-chief of the army put himself in that position? Because Alexander didn't just want to win battles. He wanted to be Achilles. He wanted the glory. He needed to prove his bravery to everyone, including himself. And it worked. He won. But here's the problem. Winning felt good. After Granicus, Alexander could have consolidated his position. Instead, he spent 18 months methodically conquering every coastal city in Asia Minor. Why? To eliminate the Persian navy. Smart strategy, but watch what happens. Whenever a city surrenders easily, Alexander gets almost disappointed. But when a city resists, like Halicarnassus or Tyre, he becomes obsessed. Tyre is the perfect example. It's an island fortress, never been conquered. Alexander has no navy. Every logical reason says, leave it, move on. Instead, he spends 7 months building a causeway across half a mile of water. 7 months. His generals think he's crazy, but Alexander cannot leave a challenge unconquered. When Tyre finally falls, he massacres 8,000 people. It's one of the worst atrocities of his career. And you know what? I don't think it was about Tyre at all. I think Alexander was punishing them for making him wait, for denying him immediate victory. He's starting to change. Victories are no longer satisfying. Only the next challenge matters. The Battle of Issus in 333 BC is where things get really interesting. Darius III, the Persian king of kings, personally leads an enormous army against Alexander. They meet on a narrow battlefield. Alexander wins, and Darius runs away. But here's the crucial detail. Darius brought his family to watch his victory. So when Darius flees, Alexander captures the Persian royal family, Darius's mother, wife, and daughters. And Alexander treats them with remarkable respect and kindness. Why? Some historians say it's propaganda. Show the Persians he's civilized. But I think it's more than that. Alexander is starting to see himself not as a Greek conquering Persia, but as the rightful king of Persia. He doesn't want to destroy the Persian Empire. He wants to become it. After Issus, Darius sends a peace offer. Take everything west of the Euphrates. Marry my daughter. Let's end this. Alexander's general, Parmenion, says, if I were you, I'd take that deal. Alexander replies, so would I, if I were Parmenion. This is the moment, right here. Alexander has won. He controls half the Persian Empire. He's proven himself. He could accept, consolidate, build something lasting. But he can't stop. He literally cannot stop. By 331 BC, after conquering Egypt, something shifts in Alexander's psychology. The Egyptian priests crown him pharaoh and call him son of Ra. Then he makes a dangerous journey through the desert to visit the Oracle of Siwa. What happened there, we don't know exactly, but Alexander comes out claiming the oracle confirmed he's the son of Zeus. Now, did Alexander actually believe he was the son of a god, or was it just political theater? Honestly, I think by this point, he didn't know the difference anymore. Here's what we do know. After Egypt, Alexander starts demanding that people prostrate themselves before him, a Persian custom that Greeks found degrading. His Macedonian companions are horrified. They think he's becoming a tyrant. But from Alexander's perspective, he's trying to unite his empire. He's trying to be both Greek and Persian, both conqueror and legitimate king. The problem is, he's also starting to believe his own mythology. The Battle of Gaugamela later that year is the climax. Darius assembles one last massive army. Alexander's outnumbered, maybe 2-1. The night before battle, Parmenion suggests a night attack. Alexander refuses, saying, "I will not steal my victory." That's not confidence, that's pride. Alexander needs to win gloriously, heroically, in a way that poets will sing about forever. A sneak attack wouldn't be worthy of Achilles. He wins, of course. Darius flees again and is later murdered by his own men. The Persian Empire falls. Alexander is 25 years old. He controls everything from Greece to Central Asia. So naturally, he stops now, right? He's proven himself beyond any doubt. Mission accomplished. Except he doesn't stop. He can't.
Forward for the Empire! Hold formation! No.
Here's where it gets dark. After conquering Persia, Alexander spends the next 4 years fighting in Central Asia, Afghanistan, the Hindu Kush Mountains, places even the Persians barely controlled. His soldiers are exhausted. They've been campaigning for years. They want to go home, but Alexander keeps pushing. And he's changing. He's drinking more. He's more paranoid. At a drunken banquet, he gets into an argument with Cletus, the man who literally saved his life at Granicus, and kills him with a spear. When Alexander sobers up and realizes what he's done, he's devastated. He locks himself in his room for 3 days, refusing to eat. But here's the thing, he doesn't stop campaigning. The guilt, the grief, he deals with it by conquering more. It's like he's running from something, maybe from his demons, maybe from the terrifying question, if I stop conquering, who am I? In 326 BC, Alexander crossed into India. He defeats several kingdoms, including King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes. It's his hardest-fought victory. His beloved horse Bucephalus dies from wounds received in the battle. Alexander is now further from home than any European has ever been. His soldiers have been marching and fighting for 8 years straight. They've crossed deserts and mountains and rivers. They've seen their friends die in dozens of battles. And Alexander wants to keep going. He's heard of the mighty Nanda Empire beyond the Ganges, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, thousands of war elephants. He wants to conquer them too. For the first time in his life, his army says no. Not a mutiny, not a rebellion, just no. We're done. We're going home. Alexander rages. He begs. He sulks in his tent for 3 days, hoping they'll change their minds, but they won't budge. This is the only battle Alexander ever lost, not to an enemy, but to reality. There's a limit to human endurance, and his army found it. So they turn back, but even in retreat, Alexander can't help himself. Instead of taking the safe route home, he marches through the Gedrosian Desert, one of the harshest environments on Earth, just to prove it can be done. He loses more men to heat and thirst than he lost in all his battles combined. Why? Why take that risk? Because Alexander literally could not just do something the easy way. Every journey had to be a challenge. Every route had to be an adventure. By 324 BC, Alexander was back in Persia. He's 30 years old. He's conquered everything from Greece to India, and he's planning another campaign, this time to conquer Arabia, then maybe swing around through North Africa. But his body is breaking down. All those wounds, all that hard living, all that heavy drinking. And then his closest friend, Hephaestion, dies of illness. Alexander completely loses it. Some sources say he crucified the doctor. Others say he burned an entire city as a funeral offering. He cuts his hair in mourning like Achilles did for Patroclus. He's trying to live the Iliad even in grief. In June 323 BC, Alexander was in Babylon. He attends a long drinking party. He drinks heavily. Sources say he drained a massive cup of wine in one go. Within hours, he develops a raging fever. For 12 days, he lies dying. His generals ask who should inherit his empire. According to legend, he whispers, "To the strongest." Some historians think he said to Craterus, one of his generals, but his voice was too weak to hear clearly. Others think he knew exactly what he was saying, that there would be no peaceful succession, only war.
You have no claim, pretender! Then die!
On June 10th or 11th, 323 BC, Alexander died. He's 32 years old. The cause of death? We still don't know for sure. Malaria, typhoid, alcohol poisoning, poison. Take your pick. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Alexander's body was giving out because he'd pushed it beyond human limits for 13 straight years. Even as he's dying, he's planning his next war. Here's what happened after Alexander died. His empire quickly began to break apart. Without a clear successor, his generals fought each other in a long series of conflicts known as the Wars of the Successors, which lasted for decades. His wife, Roxana, and his young son, Alexander IV, were later killed during these power struggles. Over time, his direct bloodline came to an end. The empire he created did not remain united for long. It was eventually divided into separate kingdoms ruled by his former generals. One reason for this was the absence of a clear succession plan. Alexander spent most of his life on military campaigns. He did not establish stable institutions strong enough to hold such a vast territory together after his death. When he was gone, there was no agreed system to manage the empire as a whole, and without that structure, unity did not last. Alexander Great? Militarily, absolutely. He never lost a battle. He conquered more territory than anyone before him. But was he successful? That depends on how you measure success. Alexander conquered everything and built nothing. He won every battle and lost the war for legacy. His empire collapsed within a generation. His family was murdered, his bloodline extinguished. Here's what I think. Alexander wasn't great because he conquered the world. He conquered the world because he had to. Childhood insecurities, impossible expectations, obsessive need to prove himself. He was addicted to conquest the way some people are addicted to gambling or alcohol. The man who conquered the world couldn't conquer himself. Alexander died at 32 with the whole world at his feet and nothing to show for it. No dynasty, no lasting peace, just stories. 2,500 years later, we're still talking about him. He got his immortal memory. But as he lay dying in Babylon, planning yet another war, did he realize that all the conquering in the world couldn't fill the void inside? We'll never know.